The Carleton College Convocation program is a weekly lecture series that brings fresh insights and perspectives from experts in a variety of fields. The program has a rich history dating back several decades. The selected Convocation speakers assist the liberal arts mission of centering thoughtful conversations within education and beyond.
Hello, good morning. I'm Yi Loon, class of 2025. I'm a math major and a student worker at the Permanent Teaching Museum. It's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Francis Su. Dr. Su is a Benediktsson-Karwa professor of mathematics at Harvey Mudd College and a former president of the Mathematical Association of America. He received his Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from the University of Texas at Austin and his PhD from Harvard University. His research is in topological and geometric combinatorics and applications to the sciences, including game theory, voting theory, and the mathematics of fair decisions. Dr. Su has received the Heimer Award for Distinguished Teaching and the Hammersford Award for Outstanding Mathematical Writing. His book, Mathematics for Human Flourishing, has been translated into 8 languages and is the winner of the 2021 Euler Book Prize. I have personally enjoyed reading this book over the past few weeks and had a great time talking to him about it yesterday. He is so patient and generous with his time, and it's clear that he has a passion for working with students. Today, Dr. Su will present a talk titled Seeing the Unseen, the Enchantment of Mathematical Beauty. In addition to being a convocation speaker, his talk is the keynote speech kicking off a 2-day symposium on math and art titled Points, Lines, Angles, and Shapes. If you want to continue exploring the intersection of mathematics and beauty, join us for the rest of the conference in the White Center for the Arts, room 236. Momentarily, Dr. Su will share with us how mathematics can reveal hidden beauty, much like art or music, and how this beauty contributes to a flourishing life. It's a privilege to have him today with us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Francis Su to Carleton College.
Hi, everyone. Oh. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? It's wonderful to be here. I have had a great visit here yesterday and today. And I would love to help you think differently about mathematics. If you've not had a great relationship to mathematics, I hope this talk will be an entryway into a different way of thinking about math. I like to describe math as seeing the unseen patterns of the world, illuminating what is hidden through reasoning. And this experience can feel glorious, exhilarating, beautiful. And I love this picture that my friend Carl Olson drew for my book. It depicts someone seeing a beautiful truth, once hidden, now revealed, and that can feel dazzling. You see, all of us are drawn to beauty, and because of that, all of us are mathematical people. Being mathematical is who we are. Just to give you a case in point, this is my family. I have a son who's now about 4. He was about 2 when we took this picture. And at the time, he was just learning to speak. And because we live in Los Angeles, his first word was helicopter. Except he didn't say helicopter. He would just point up at the sky when he heard one of these machines flying overhead, and he would say, da, da, da. Eventually, I became da, da, and if he said da, 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 that meant helicopter. So, every hour or two, we'd hear a helicopter, and he'd point up at the sky and say da, da, da. Now, he was born during the pandemic, so the whole first year of his life, we didn't take him out. We didn't go anywhere. Eventually, things started opening up. One day I brought him into a hardware store, and he points up at the ceiling and he goes, da da da. And I was like, what? There's no helicopter here. But of course there was. Now what was interesting about this was he'd started calling a helicopter da 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 because of the sound it makes. But now he had begun to associate da 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 with a whirling, spinning blades of a fan. And I marveled at this when this happened because I was like, yeah, that's right. He saw something I didn't see, right? He saw a connection between these two ideas that somehow seemed very different to me, but he put them in the same category. See, he was behaving in a very mathematical way. And all of us do this from a very young age. We say this and this are the same thing, even though they look very different. This very small Chihuahua, this very big Great Dane are both dogs. Somehow as kids we're able to see the essence of dogness. That's abstraction, that's a mathematical virtue. And it's something we're all born with, but we can cultivate it and make it stronger through education. This is the part of the joy then and wonder and beauty that's found in mathematics is seeing the unseen, the connections. Now, if you ask mathematicians why they study mathematics, there have been numerous surveys that look at this, and by and large, the biggest reason that mathematicians say they do mathematics is because it's beautiful. Right? That may sound strange if you've never seen the beauty of mathematics. I decided last semester I was running a seminar, a research seminar, and at the University of Sydney. And I decided to just do a word cloud survey just to see what people said there. And you can see some of their answers to this question, why do you like maths? The biggest one is beautiful, but not far behind is because it's challenging. But you also see fun, creative, rewarding. There's also pays the bills, which also helps, I guess. And there's also pho, which I assume means fun. Why do you like maths? Because it's beautiful. So this is amazing to me, because when I think about the experiences that draw mathematicians to mathematics, which include beauty, but also include things like community, a search for truth, a desire for freedom. These are all things ways that people who are drawn to the subject, these are the sides of mathematics that they see. And yet, many of us don't have the same experience. For many people, the experience of mathematics is one of anxiety, or boredom. We haven't done enough to help people see the joy and the wonder of learning mathematics. Now, I teach a class on the history and philosophy of math and math education, and one of the things that I have the students do in the class is a project to help them synthesize what they're learning in the form of a piece of art. This is a stunning, wonderful example of a piece that one of my students did. And it expresses in a really beautiful way what he calls the dichotomy of the mathematical tree. Have a moment. Take a moment to look at this picture and dwell. You see, he created this after reading a number of papers as a way of expressing what he was seeing. Right? For some, math is a place of joy, while others fall off the swing. Which side of the tree has been your experience? If you're on the right, I would love for you to see another way into math, and my goal then in this talk is to show you a way through beauty. What do experiences of beauty feel like? Math can feel like that too. That's what I hope you'll take away. What do experiences of beauty feel like? Math can feel like that too. Here's a beautiful piece of art, one of my favorite pieces of art. Take a moment to soak it in. What do you notice about this piece? And what do you wonder? Now, beauty sometimes takes a while to unfold, doesn't it? Right? This might be my favorite painting, but it may not be yours yet. Right? Sometimes it requires patience and a willingness to ask questions, to notice, to wonder why this painting is entitled Hope when the figure in the painting seems so forlorn, to ask what is going on, what is she doing behind her ear? And upon closer inspection, you might see that she's strumming a lyre, a harp, and it's the last string of the harp. You might ask, why is this painting entitled Hope? And then maybe only after some time you see a star just over her left shoulder. Ah, I didn't see that before. Right? When you stand in front of a beautiful piece of art, it asks you, it demands of you your attention. And your attention is rewarded after long study with a realization, something that you didn't see before, seeing the unseen. And sometimes when we understand the culture and the history and the context around a piece of art, it becomes even more beautiful. This painting emerged at a time in the late 1800s when the entire world was going through a great economic recession, depression, the Long Depression it was called. And so this painting captures the pessimism of the times, right? We live in another age where the world seems scary and foreboding. And so this painting has a certain meaning that I identify with. It was also the subject of a sermon by Martin Luther King. And later, Barack Obama, the book entitled The Audacity of Hope was based on this painting, right? This figure is hope personified. And she has the audacity of hope, the audacity to hope that by strumming the string, she might yet still hear some music. See, this is a way that we engage with art. We now feel something about it that's different than what we saw before by understanding its context. We see how it represents a certain era. We identify with it. The painting begins to transcend its canvas and become something greater and point to something more. Mathematical beauty can be like this too. So as an example, I am going to do a card trick, and I'm going to invite Nee, would you come up and be my volunteer? Now, Nee and I actually had never met before yesterday, and we didn't collude on this. I'll pay you later. So let me show you, first of all, this is just a normal deck, okay? Can you see this? But just to be sure, I'm going to invite Nee to give the deck a single riffle shuffle, okay? So if you don't mind, you might do the honors there. Whoa, a flourish. Let's give Nee a hand. Okay, would you agree, now that Nee has shuffled the deck, that there's no possible way I could know the ordering of this deck? No possible way? No possible way that, I'm not in control. She's actually not in control either, right? And so if you grant me that, then maybe you'd believe I was born with an amazing ability to feel the colors of the cards with my fingertips. You're looking skeptical. You should be skeptical because I could not tell you whether this card is red or black. I don't know, okay? But I can pull out pairs of cards, opposite colors. One red, one black, yes? One red, one black. Now, of course, you're not that impressed because there was about a 50-50 chance that I would get that right. But if I do it again, one red, one black, you'd say, okay, 1 in 4 chance that he did that right. 1 red, 1 black. 1 in 8. 1 in 16. 1 in 32. And, you know, I could keep going, and maybe at some point you'll be impressed and clap. Now, of course, this is was not born with any amazing ability, believe it or not. This is a mathematical card trick. And one of the things I like about it is both that it's a beautiful card trick for reasons that you'll see later. It's really, you can't mess it up. It doesn't require any sleight of hand. And right from the outset, though, a card trick like this invites you to ask questions, doesn't it? Aren't you wondering now what's going on with that deck? Maybe you'd like to take a look at the deck, right? And see, it doesn't seem to be, still looks very random. And yet, I could keep going until the end of the deck. Okay, so I invite you to enjoy that. Think about that if you get bored of the rest of this talk. Now, there's lots of ways to describe beauty, lots of ways to describe mathematical beauty. I'm just going to pick 4 ways that I see that beauty happens in seeing the unseen. One way is noticing unseen details of the world around us. Another is marveling at unseen possibilities that may surprise us. Another, and this may be unique to mathematics, is understanding why unseen patterns happen the way they do. And maybe finally, and most deeply, treasuring the transcendent experiences that we have when we make unseen connections between the things we learn. The most accessible kind of beauty is the first. It's noticing, right? It's that feeling that happens when you walk into an immersive space with a lot of geometric designs or patterns. This is a cathedral in Spain that I was in just only 2 or 3 weeks ago. This kind of experience, oh, sorry, yes, I didn't switch over, did I? This kind of experience can feel profound, right? Your soul quiets when you enter a space like this. The same thing might happen when you're listening to music, right? A sublime sonata might carry us away to a different place. And you begin to reflect. You feel a certain harmony, a balance when you enter spaces like this. All of us have had this kind of experience of mathematical beauty. And when you experience beauty in the form of symmetry, curves, and angles, aren't you just experiencing algebra, calculus, and geometry in the wild? Or it can occur in nature. This is some patterns by the mathematician Frank Ferris that are based on beautiful ideas in mathematics. And of course, it makes you want to look more closely and study the intricate design of Steiner's porisms. You might encounter beauty in the form of turbulence under an airplane wing. Right? There's some questions that it begs. Why? How are those shapes formed? What's going on? This is a picture I took of a fractal cauliflower, right? Romanescu. Is that cauliflower or broccoli? I encountered this. I'd never seen something like this before, and I was suddenly mesmerized when I saw this. I was like, what? Nature can do that? What in the world is happening? How are those mathematical patterns formed? I love this quote by Judy Grabiner, who's a well-known historian of mathematics. She was speaking of musical beauty and mathematical beauty. She said, musical beauty is a violation of your expectations that in a way that afterwards seems natural. That's what I think mathematical beauty is too. And what I take from that is this feeling that I had like, hey, you know, once I see this fractal cauliflower, I'm amazed, I'm mesmerized, but then I'm like, whoa, like that was better than I expected from nature, right? It violated my expectations, but afterwards, I now begin to expect enchanting things wherever I look. That's the way mathematical beauty can sensitize us, to begin to ask us to look deeply at everything we see in the world. Another deep form, another next level of beauty, I would say, is marveling at the beauty of ideas, right? Delighting in unseen possibilities that we didn't expect. Like this geometry puzzle, which consists of 4 regions that if you take those objects and you rearrange them, suddenly there's a square missing. What? Makes you want to look closer, right? It makes you want to study what is going on. And once you figure out what's going on, I guarantee you're going to try doing something like this yourself at home, perhaps with different shapes. Is this possible? Right, so there's the delight in these unseen possibilities, things you didn't think was possible. And it creates in you this feeling of awe, wonder, surprise. Here's another, I would think of it as a beautiful theorem. It's something known as the Brouwer fixed point theorem, which I'll just say it in common terms. It says that if you take a cup of coffee or a bottle of water, it says that if you slosh it around and you took a picture before the sloshing and after the sloshing, there must be a point that's in the same spot. In other words, it didn't move between those 2 pictures. It might have moved in the meantime, but at the beginning, at the end, there must be a point that's in the same spot. Now, what's amazing about this theorem, we call it, this truth that mathematicians have established, is the idea that it seemed like there's not, like, how could you say that's true, right? Like, if I have a point that's fixed, if I move it, doesn't that mean there's no point fixed anymore? No, because the theorem says that if I push the fixed point out of its original position, another point must move into its original position. Whoa, why? It seems surprising that, it's a surprising idea that if you ask mathematicians for the top 10 list of most important theorems, this theorem has so many applications it's ridiculous. Okay, I won't go into them, but there is the surprise, the wonder of ideas here that draws you in. I was walking through the hall one day, and my colleague who was into 3D printing said to me, "Hey Francis, do you know what happens if you take a Menger sponge and you slice it diagonally?" And of course, I was not paying attention. I was busy. I was like, no, I have no idea. And I was almost going to walk off, right? He said, "Come over here, take a look. Take a look at this." Oh. Huh? What? Suddenly, I was hooked. Suddenly, I stopped what I was doing. I went over and I said, "Give me those pieces. I want to look closely." Right, a Menger sponge is basically a sponge with a bunch of cubes cut out of it, cubical regions cut out of it, and suddenly it has hexagonal stars. What? Now, I'll give you a hint if you want to try this or think about this later. The six pointed stars have something to do with the fact that a cube has 6 sides, okay? Okay, I'm beginning to get a glimpse that there's something more here. A few years ago, we had the mathematical artist Scott Kim come to Harvey Mudd, which is where I teach, Harvey Mudd College. And he's famous for producing ambergrams on the spot. So what's an ambergram? It's, he'll take an audience and call out audience members would call out 2 different words. He would think a minute, and then he would write a figure that one way spelled one word and upside down spelled the other word. So this is Harvey Mudd in calligraphy. What do you think it says upside down? Whoa, mathematics. What? How is that possible? This is the beauty of ideas. The fact that you can even do something like this is really amazing. It's surprising. It's beautiful, wouldn't you say? And it makes you want to go home and try this with your first name and your last name. You should try this. And it makes you want to look closer. How in the world is the M become, what letters is the capital M becoming? Oh, it's a TH. Look at that. It makes you want to study. It evokes awe. It compels study. It motivates creativity because you'll want to try this yourself. One of the biggest discoveries in the last year is this delightful tiling. It's called an aperiodic monotiling. The single tiling shape is called a monotile. We actually have an expert, one of the people who was involved in the discovery is speaking at this conference, so you should come to this Math and Art Symposium. What is an aperiodic monotile? So there's this question. Okay, so in your bathroom, you probably have a tiling pattern, yes? And it's probably very boring, right? Like in many bathrooms, it's just a grid, okay? And why is it boring? It's a grid, it's periodic, which means that if you pick up the tiling and you push it over and you put it down, it looks exactly the same. Are you with me? That's periodic. Okay, and now squares can actually tile the plane in a non-periodic way, okay? So you could make it more interesting if you wanted. But the question that had been a big open question for many years is there a tile that will only tile a plane in an aperiodic way, in a way that it never repeats? And we knew that you could do pairs of tiles up until this point, but actually a lot of people believed it was impossible, okay, until these mathematicians, and actually one amateur mathematician is the one who initially discovered the shape, found this creature. It's beautiful. Isn't that beautiful, the idea that you could do this? I've been a fan of tilings, and of course, before this result came out, I had a renovation in my house, and I thought, you know, I gotta leave a mathematical imprint on this house. Okay, so I decided to try to do one with pairs of an aperiodic tiling with pairs of tiles. By the way, you know, interesting thing, if you look at this, it kind of looks periodic, but there's actually no way you can pick it up and put it down and have it look the same over the entire plane. So here's my front porch. Do you like it? It's squares and triangles, and believe me, it's really hard to find tiles that have the same edge length that are squares and triangles, okay? And so, unfortunately, I had to do all the cutting myself, okay? I went to Home Depot, rented a saw, and so I did all this work, several days of work, just to do this small little porch that I have with squares and triangles in an aperiodic fashion. And then only a couple months later, the monotile was discovered, and I was like, no! Okay, so the beauty of ideas, the wonder of ideas, this is what we've just seen. But now let's move into another form of beauty, and this may be unique to mathematics, the beauty of reasoning, right? The fact that reasoning itself can be beautiful. Uncovering unseen patterns. Often this results in aha moments. Those aha moments feel insightful, like you suddenly understanding what's going on, right? Like when you get to the end of these movies. These particular movies, or many movies like this, with a twist at the end, okay? You know, at the end of Shawshank Redemption, you find out that, no, I won't say it, okay? Because I want you to experience that beauty as well. Yes, that's the beauty of reasoning. That's how it feels when you finally understand something. So to give an example, one of the first glimpses I got of mathematical beauty was when I was a kid, and one of my friends, my parents' friends, came over to the house, heard I liked math, and said, hey, Francis, can you add up all the numbers from 1 to 100, quickly? And of course I couldn't do it, and I didn't know he was actually trying to see if I could be Gauss, who apparently did it at age 5. But anyways, I said, no, I have no idea. He said, okay, let me show you this. And so he explained it. I'm just going to do this for 1 through 10, okay? How do you add up the numbers 1 through 10 quickly? He said, if you line them up all in a row and you grab the first one and the last one, they add up to, 1 and 10 add up to, everyone? 11. If I move 1 in from the ends, 2 and 9 also add up to 11. 3 and 8 add up to, and if there are 10 total numbers, how many pairs of 11s do you have? 5. So 5 times 11 is? 55, and all of a sudden you've done that quickly. Whoa! You can go ahead, say that. Whoa, that was neat. Okay, good. Because you think that's great, do 1 through 100 now. Ready? Line up all the 100 numbers, 1 to 100. First and last add up to 101, and every pair adds up to 101. And how many pairs are there? 50. What's 50 times 101? 5,050. Ah, beautiful. Why is it beautiful? Because we took an idea, the idea that there's symmetry here, and exploited that symmetry or anti-symmetry to solve this problem. There are plenty of examples of identities which themselves may not be that interesting to you, right? Like, but can be, right? Like the patterns in numbers, like this one, if you add up numbers and the sum squared is actually the sum of the cubes of those numbers, no matter what number you go up to, in this case 5. Why in the world is that true? People like to try to understand these things, and guess what? In a beautiful way, a single picture captures the truth of this statement. And you can see from this picture, if you study it, that the pattern generalizes. There's a feeling of, I see this, I understand this kind of beauty. I see what's happening here. So if I have cubes, the bottom picture shows a square made up a side length of 1 plus all the numbers 1 through 5. The top shows cubes made up of side lengths 1 through 5. Beautiful, right? That's the kind of feeling you might have. I love this quote by statistician David Blackwell, who said this: "Why do you want to share something beautiful with somebody else? It's because of the pleasure she will get, and in transmitting it, you appreciate its beauty all over again," right? Like, I wasn't bored sharing this with you. I enjoyed it, reliving this experience. Isn't that what you do with a movie, right? You like rewatching movies, okay? And that's, don't worry, I'm not like constantly rewatching theorems at home, but I enjoy experiencing them again. And this card trick, actually, when you see how it's done, can be beautiful, okay? So I'm just gonna show you how this card trick works. Or do you want me to not show you? Yeah, go ahead, I'll show you, yeah, okay. Because, you could figure it out, but it's actually even more fun for us to have a communal experience of delight together, okay? And when you see why it works, I want you to go, okay? Okay, so obviously before the trick started, I actually had to order the deck in some way, and I know that my volunteer was gonna mess it up, okay? So how do you order it? So the trick is to be able to see the unseen pattern that still exists in the deck after one shuffle, okay? So before the deck started, I'll just do this with a few cards. I ordered the deck so that it was alternating. Everybody say alternating. So it's red, black, red, black, red, black. Are you with me? Okay. Oh, got to switch. Got to switch, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna move all this out of the way. Oh, did I switch? Did somebody switch for me? Okay, so here we go. So do you see that I've now ordered this deck in an alternating fashion, red, black, red, black, red, black? Okay, so just keep the deck small. Yes? Now, when you start the trick, you can fan it out and have people see it. They're not gonna see because it's clumping that it has this pattern. Are you with me? Okay, and that's important because you don't want people to think you ordered it all red on one side or all black on the other. Okay, okay, good. So everybody say alternating. Okay, great. So now I give my deck to the volunteer, and here's the part you have to remember before you do it, otherwise it only works half the time. When you give your deck to the volunteer, you have to cut the deck for them. Are you with me? And you have to cut it in a special way. It's very easy to do this. You have to cut it so that the bottom cards are different colors, okay? Do you see that? Everybody say bottom cards are different colors. Good, you'll remember that now that I've made you say it. Okay, so now I'm Nee, okay? I'm the volunteer. And you can't control how Nee's gonna shuffle, yes? But so what's gonna happen when Nee shuffles? She's gonna drop one card or the other, yes? Do you agree? And we don't know which, okay? So you're gonna see the bottoms of the cards here, okay? So if she does a shuffle, which card is gonna drop first? Say, I don't know. I don't know, maybe it's red. But if I drop the red card, what's the next card have to be? Black. Why? Because the deck is alternating. So under the red is a black, yes? Oh, okay, good. So what's the next card going to be? Black. Maybe if knee is a really bad shuffler, it falls from the same side. It doesn't matter, though, does it? But once it drops, do you see now that the deck bottom halves are different colors, yes? Why? Because the deck is alternating. Good. So what's the next card going to be? Say, I don't know. Maybe it's black. Well, then after that, what card is going to be, here, you can't see this. After that, what's the next card going to be after black? Red, because the deck is alternating. So basically, these cards are going to fall, and I can't control knee, and she might be really bad, and they come from the same side many times. Who knows? But at the end, you're not going to have a deck that's perfectly alternating anymore. Do you see that? But it will come off in red-black or black-red pairs because of what you've just done. That's the feeling of beauty. That's the feeling of beauty. Okay, so all you have to do with the trick is just make it look hard. You fish around for a while, and you say, oh yes, 2 cards of different colors, but you're just picking them off the top. Okay, wonderful, yes? Okay, so let me wrap up with this thought that, after you do this for a while, you begin to notice patterns everywhere that pop up over and over again. That's a feeling of transcendence, that transcendent feeling, the sense that there's something more. It feels like everything's connected on a deep level, like there's something more just beyond our reach, waiting to be grasped. This is a picture of something known as a Riemann zeta function. Whatever that is, it's some mysterious function. What's that? Switch. It's a mysterious function, okay? And it turns out the zeros of this function are somehow related to a number of other problems in mathematics, like random matrices, right? Like, whoa, why is there this connection? People still don't quite understand. I had this experience. So I work in this area called game theory, and there's this famous theorem. You might have seen the movie A Beautiful Mind about John Nash. He proved a theorem that basically said in every game, that's basically an interaction between players, has an equilibrium. That is, a pair of strategies these players can play that are mutually the best replies, best responses to one another, okay? Whatever that means. And this theorem has won him a Nobel Prize in economics, of all things, from the mathematician, right? The amazing thing is, when I looked at the proof, it's only like 3 pages long. It uses, what? The Brouwer fixed point theorem. What? Why? And the basic idea is, in a game, when you look at the set of all possible strategies, and you have to allow randomization in this in order for this theorem to be true, but if you look at all possible randomized strategies, it forms something that looks like the liquid in a bottle, okay? And if you ask, for every point in the bottle, which is a pair of strategies, if you move in the direction of better responses, that's like sloshing the bottle around. And so the fact that there's a point in the bottle that doesn't need to be sloshed is the equilibrium in this game. Whoa! Now, if you watch the movie, they explain Nash equilibrium all wrong. So it's your exercise to figure out what they said wrong. I love this quote by C.S. Lewis, who talked about experiences of beauty as the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we've never visited. Right? In the same way, that's how mathematics feels, like you're seeing glimpses of something more, some truth. Eugene Wigner, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, said this about math. He said, "The miracle of the appropriateness of the language of math to the formulation of laws of physics is a wonderful gift which we neither understand nor deserve." That's the feeling of transcendent beauty. I had this experience with my tiling. I told you I had to cut all these tiles. It took me days to cut these tiles because operating a saw is actually dangerous and you have to be careful. But one of the first problems I encountered was this challenge of figuring out how many tiles of each kind I needed to cut. I was trying to cut these things out of picket tiles, which basically look like this. And if you cut here and you cut here, you get a square and a triangle, the same side length, okay? And so I had to estimate how many to buy. And if you know anything about these tiling patterns, they're constructed with these rules that are called inflation rules. But if you replace a tile by a pattern, and you keep doing that, you get larger and larger regions of tiles. If you didn't understand what I said, don't worry, but you're getting the basic sense. But these rules, I was teaching linear algebra at the time, whatever that is, okay? And these rules are basically like doing a transformation of some kind, okay? And it turns out the transformation is linear for those of you who've taken linear algebra. And the amazing thing is when I thought about it for a little while, figuring out how many tiles I needed to do this thing equated to figuring out the eigenvectors of some matrix. Whoa, mind blown. Everything's connected on a deep level. Amazing. I have my students reflect on beauty. I love this reflection that my students said, which points to seeing the unseen. When I find something beautiful in math, I think the beauty is achieved by the satisfaction that you found some order, a way of connecting ideas that felt disconnected. It's beautiful to find some order where you thought there was only entropy. As humans, we often contemplate the meaning of life, wondering if there's any meaning, searching for some form of order in our world. When something interesting exists, I hope that it's not merely an accident, but rather due to some huge plan or order that I do not fully see or understand. This was the pandemic semester, and so many of my students were really feeling that, like what is going on in the world? And one refuge is the beauty, the order, the glimpse that there might be something more. Okay, so why does all this discussion matter? Why does mathematical beauty matter? Because it evokes awe in us. That's a feeling that we all deserve to have, and that we might glimpse mathematical beauty everybody should have a chance at. It compels us to study things more closely. It motivates us to be creative, right? And it primes us in our lives to look for beauty, to expect enchantment will be found, to expect that answers to hard problems, not every hard problem can be solved, but many of them can. Not everybody has that hope. It builds in us hope to look for beauty and to be primed to expect enchantment. So seeing the unseen is a power you can cultivate. It's a responsibility now that you have that power to steward it well, to use it well. And it's a gift that will enrich your life and enable you to flourish more. Cherish it and use it well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Professor Sue, for being here. We know you have questions. We're going to get to those in a second, and we have friend Beth to help us with that as well. But just a couple things to mention. If you didn't get snacks on the way in, please get them on the way out. We're very grateful to all those who have provided the snacks here today. We want to eat them up. And speaking of snacks, the program will continue at White's 236. If you have RSVP'd for lunch, we will not be in AGH. We will be in White's 236. If you have not RSVP'd, we have room for about 15 more. So please come see me afterwards. We'd love to have you there. Let's move on with the program. So who would like to start off with a question to get us rolling? I know you have them. I see it. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect.
What's an eigenvector?
What's an eigenvector? Oh, I thought you'd never ask. Let's see. So linear algebra is this subject which asks us to think about very simple combinations of things. Okay, so an example might be, I have a basket of apples, bananas, and fruit. Okay, and a linear combination means just take some of this, and some of this, and put them together. Okay. Turns out our world is based on you can think of lots of examples of linear combinations. If you are rating movies on Netflix, your ratings for every movie is a combination of those movies in some sense. If you are looking at matter on a really tiny level, quantum state turns out to be a linear combination. Whoa, surprising, okay? And the thing is that many of the operations in our world are really weird, but the nicest ones are all linear, whatever that means, okay? Takes lines to lines, they do nice things. It turns out that these complicated operations, the simple operations that are linear, can be made even more simple because they on certain combinations, they send that basket of goods to just a multiple of themselves. Or it sends some quantum state to a multiple of itself, whatever that means. But like quantum mechanics is basically linear algebra, okay? And so this amazing thing called the Schrodinger operator turns out to be a unitary operator, some linear operator on a state, whatever that is. If you want to help people predict movies on Netflix, you look at the ratings, the ratings person operation, okay? What's an eigenvector? It's a special vector associated with certain matrices that enable the matrix to behave nicely. How did I do? Oh, and so what was happening here, this tiling was basically, there's some linear operation that enables me to create larger and larger sections, and the eigenvector told me the ratios that I need. In the back.
I feel like mathematics is such a vast enterprise, and it takes a while to become an expert in even a small niche of the whole field.
Yeah.
But when you talk about these unexpected, surprising connections between different, topics that wouldn't at first glance be connected, it makes me wonder how mathematicians can do that, I guess, and like how you can use other fields that you might not know that well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say that the short answer to that is I don't know everything, so I rely on other people, right? Like I need an expert in number theory to help me understand what's going on. So I talk to Caroline, right? Like math in a lot of fields don't work in a vacuum. You have community, you build those connections. So that's an important aspect of doing science and mathematics. It doesn't just happen alone. Contrary to the popular view of what mathematicians do, it's not solitary.
Hi, Professor. I'm wondering if, when you look at beauty in mathematics, you see the same kind of beauty reflected in pure math versus math applied to the sciences or economics, or if there's a distinction there for you in terms of the revelations, what you're seeing in terms of the beauty and, richness. Yeah.
I think my taste could be different from others. I think applications of mathematics are also beautiful, right? Like the surprising application of Brouwer-Fixed point theorem to this problem in economics. Amazing, right? He wrote a paper, it was 3 pages long, and it basically won a Nobel Prize, that kind of thing. I love that, but I think everybody's going to have slightly different ways of they think about beauty, and maybe the way I think about beauty is not exactly the way you think about it.
And I should mention this is open to our friends on Zoom as well. You can enter your question and we will relay it.
What's an ugly area of math that you would like to make more beautiful?
Oh, that's a great question. At the risk of offending people. Well, okay, so I'll give an example. So when I was an undergraduate, I had a hard time with abstract algebra. Sorry, Murphy Kate. I had a hard time with it. Like it seemed like a bunch of disconnected results. Sorry, I better stop. It seemed like a bunch of, but when the redemption is when I got to graduate school, I began to see its beauty when I was able to see it in a larger context, connections to other fields. and so it felt more beautiful to me. But different people have different tastes, and I think that part could be subjective. I think algebra is really beautiful, Murphy Kate. I really do. I do.
Hi. I know in your book and where you're talking here, there's a lot of kind of crossover. Like you can find beauty in almost anywhere if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
And for people who are maybe going through an education program, do you have any thoughts on specializing versus broad general education? Like, does that spur any response to you about what path they should take?
I think it's good to do both, right? But I think if you can. But one of the reasons you're at a liberal arts college like Carleton, or a liberal arts college like mine, is that you have an unusual opportunity to begin to glimpse beauty in many different fields, many different ways of thinking. And this is part of the argument I'm making for mathematics, but people will make in general, is that this kind of education is enabling you to do much more than just college or career, right? It's enabling you to see the world differently. That's what it means to flourish, to have affection for ideas, to be comfortable in struggle, to know, to learn how to learn, right? These are all things that are going to enrich your life no matter what profession you go into. Being persistent in problem solving, which you learn how to do in mathematics, is going to serve you well no matter what you go off and do in life. Being predisposed to look for beauty is going to serve you well no matter what you do in life.
I'm going to jump in here with one from Zoom, quick like, and as one who's terrified of maths, I'm probably going to mispronounce these words, but here we go. Professor Sue, can you please explain the connections between eigenvalues and the aperiodic tessellations?
I can't do that quickly, but more than the answer I gave earlier. It's eigenvectors that I'm interested in, but maybe I'll just try really briefly. So the number of tiles that you need of a particular variety can be recorded as a bunch of numbers in a vector. That's a linear combination, some collection of numbers. And the inflation operation that I was describing is a linear operation on those numbers. And when you look at the eigenvector associated with an eigenvalue, what you're doing is I'm looking at an operation that when I do this to the whole thing, it should leave those ratios of tiles unchanged. And so I'm looking for an eigenvector whose associated scaling is just 1. It does nothing. And so that may help you see why that's related.
Thank you. And I think we have time for one last question. Okay. You get it.
I had a question about, you talked about liberal arts college, liberal arts education. I know that's mainly about combining a bunch of different aspects of the world. How would you say the beauty of mathematics can tie into something like the humanities that's most people think is completely separate? How can math make humanities better? How can humanities make mathematics better?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the partial answer to that question is you should come to the Math and Art Symposium, which has, there's hands-on activities this afternoon as well as a lecture. There's many lectures tomorrow. I'm a big fan of thinking about math in a similar way as the way we think about the humanities. And I've been trying to modify and change my teaching so that math doesn't seem like a solitary subject, because we enjoy doing math in groups, right? So I think my students should experience some of the wonder and joy of that. I am a big fan of having students write essays and reflections about what they're feeling in a math class. That may sound a little too touchy-feely for people who think science is just science. But I think we would all do better to see more of the connections between these various subjects. I teach a writing course at Harvey Mudd. And one of the things I like to do is, in the writing course, of course, is teach students how to revise an idea, an essay until it becomes better. It doesn't come out perfect the first time you write. And in a similar way now, when I teach mathematics, that informs the way I talk about it. I tell them, hey, you know, when you're solving a problem, you have a strategy, and maybe it doesn't work the first time. So you revise, you modify until it gets better and solves the problem. So I think there are many connections like that that we can exploit, and we can, if we begin to see these different disciplines in concert with each other, I think you'll get a lot more out of your education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Su, and thank you all for being here.